Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 6th of March, 2022. Well, thank you very much for joining me. It's our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore and connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space and expressing inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, crafts, performance, and problem solving. And so this is part 2 of our tree season series. It's Us and Trees. What can we do? I've still got the banner up and back there. That's what it is. Get rid of me for a moment. There you go. That's what it is. And today, the focus is going to be more on our relationships with trees and suggestions of what we can do to include more trees and involve our local communities as well as ourselves. Now, the guest today, there's Cathal. Cathal McTrain is back with us. He hasn't come on in the background yet, but anyway, we got Glenda Camino, who's in the backstage there, which is fantastic, and so is Anne Bodling with another moving poem. Here comes Cathal. He's coming on the air now, and Mail Bridge as well. To sort of give you a picture of them, there's Glenda there. I haven't got one of Cathal, and here's Anne, and here's Mail. And so that's going to be a wonderful poetry guest to break up a lot of the hands-on stuff I'm going to be going through with you. And as usual, these nature and folklore sessions, the videos and the tree sanctuary support is brought to you due to the support of our subscribers. I highly appreciate. They come to us through Patreon, which is there, the address, and also PayPal donators as well. And some subscribers are with us live today, or will be shortly. And so thank you for your continued support, because it funds me being here and sharing the show with you. So let's see which early birds. We've got a few have come in with us, and thank you very much for joining in with us, because I don't know if it is the same with you. It's a bright sunny day. We've had several here in Ireland, and this probably is going to be the last one. Be dry tomorrow, I think, but cloudy. But we've got the regular weather's coming in, guaranteed from Tuesday onwards. A lot of people coming in from YouTube today, rather than the Facebook people are out and about somewhere. So we got K Chaos here. Thanks for joining. Good morning from South Carolina there. Gina Potacara, I hope I got that right. Somewhere here, right. Hello from Switzerland. We got someone in from Switzerland. Little Wing here from Manchester has come in. So everybody's coming in from the YouTube today. And KKS says, hug the trees. We'll be doing some of that today. And Little Wing's got a lovely spring day, which is, KKS has got some overcast. Little Wing has got a spring day. So thank you for joining us, no doubt. So we got someone coming in for the Facebook here. Goodness, no, I haven't quite got it. So it's sort of disappeared. We'll get more very soon. Okay, great. Oh, it's Alan. Alan here. Balloon party. He's doing is it your birthday, Alan? Happy birthday to you today. We haven't seen you for a while, so wonderful. That's someone through the Facebook. So that's there's more coming on. Someone popping up here. Yes, Terry Slack Hardwick from Maryland, USA. Lovely. I'll say hello to the rest of you in a minute, and I'll get started with this. Now, a couple of years ago, at the start of the COVID lockdown, I performed Us and Trees for the then titled Sunday Sessions, as it was back then. And of course, nowadays, with us Nature Folklore going for an hour and a half, I've even gone on to 2 hours. Way back then, it was 18 minutes, and I was using a little iPhone with those first few episodes. And to start the afternoon, this afternoon, I'd like to encore how I did the show, a bit of how I did the show 2 years ago, because it was a transfer from having people around here at Carracrory to actually bringing it online. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I did a lot of the broadcasts out in the tree sanctuary back then. A little bit too cool for that today, but we've had warmer years on this state. I wish I could have just put extra layers on and done that, but there's too much gear now, and I'm not particularly capable. I think it'd be nice to actually encore this, because it explains why there was an Us and Tree title. A lot of people came up to me and said, well, shouldn't it be Trees and Us? And with this, I suggest how much woodland and that we need to access to make a difference. And it's not as much as you might think, really, because though many places we may not have access to the amount of land I'm going to suggest with this, especially if we live in apartments. But through the Sunday and next Sunday, I'm going to suggest how you can make this possible. So this is me kicking off this afternoon with a 2-year-old recording that explains. I'm talking this off the cuff actually for a few minutes. So let's see if I can get my video going, and this will keep us entertained for a few minutes while I tune up a few things that are not really working here. So, Claire's in as well. I'm enjoying being among the trees here. Claire's obviously, I'm not sure if she's out visiting someone or in the garden there. So lovely you're with me. So let's see, Cathel's there. That's great. So this is me 2 years ago giving an introduction to trees, Us and Trees. To the title, a few people have asked me, why is it Us and Trees rather than Trees and Us?
Should be.
Trees
it's,
and Us sounds more
I hope it's not working.
etiquette.
Oh dear.
It sounds less
dear, what's happening here?
Less commanding.
I've frozen up for some reason.
2012, I think a couple of years ago, we'd had the bards in the woods, and I would say that was definitely Trees
okay,
and Us.
Everything's frozen.
People to go into the woodlands, into the forests that are already there as public amenities, and to visit them, enjoy them. Well, I'm sorry about that. The whole internet froze on me, so I'm going to have to start again. I don't know what happened there. I knew there was things going on in the background, and I was telling our guests that I'm trying to sort out stuff. Anyway, I trust you're still with me. I'm just going to do a check that we've got the right microphones and everything else going. So it looks like everything is as it should be, right? Anyway, so I'm going to get that video up, and I hope it wasn't a video that messed it up here. So let's try again with my video file here. Us and Trees, what can we do? There it goes. It should be coming on. A few people have asked me, why is it Us and Trees rather than Trees and Us? Because Trees and Us sounds more within etiquette. It sounds less controlling, less commanding. Well, from 2012, I think a couple of years ago, we'd had the bards in the woods, and I would say that was definitely Trees and Us, because that was trying to encourage people to go into the woodlands, into the forests that are already there as public amenities, and to visit them, enjoy them. And we did share poetry, but there's a lot of variations on that around the mindfulness, forest bathing, and so forth. So I suppose that was Trees and Us. But at this festival, there were a couple of things that I picked up on that it turned it around. It became, well, what can we do for trees? And that was the question that came up. Now, the Western Forest, they had their kind of main talk, I suppose you would say, the signature talk, forget what the term is. But the man who was presenting there, one of the things he came up with was, how can Ireland actually get towards carbon neutral with more forestry? And he threw out a figure that 25% of the country, if it was covered with forest and hedges, that we would, as a country, be carbon neutral. which I thought was very interesting. Got the calculator out, and that worked out with the current population about 1/4 of an acre per person. And so that certainly got my interest, because this tree labyrinth garden here is 1/4 of an acre. There's something in this. I've already achieved the 1/4 of an acre. How can everyone in the country achieve a stewardship of 1/4 of an acre if they're living in a small with a small garden or in an apartment? So I've been doing a lot of thought on that. And then there was another lecture there. It was called from treechange.ie. The woman who put that together, she was away on something else, so she sent her husband to present it. He's a doctor, but he did a very good presentation. But when I got home, I had to look up the website, and this was really fascinating. On their website, treechange.ie, I have the link on usandtrees.com. You put in all the trees you've got in your garden or on your piece of land, and it does a calculation for you of how much carbon is being absorbed. And you also put in the figures for the number of people in your home, the amount of power you're using, and the number of miles that you drive in your car, in your vehicle in a year. So I'll put all that in. And the biggest surprise to me is that this 1/4 of an acre tree labyrinth, the amount of carbon that it absorbs is actually a little more, by their calculations, than what I consume in energy in the cottage and from the driving around, which isn't very much. I'm not driving at the moment anyway, so the figures would be better. Anyway, and I thought, well, this really ramps this idea up. How can everyone be involved with a 1/4 of an acre of woodland? That's some people, I've got plenty of land, I can do that. Some people are already doing it. Some people have got a load of land, and there's been amazing projects in the last 10, 20 years where people have grown native trees over their land over as much, 2, 5, 10, 20, 100 acres. So there's a lot going on there. You've got 100 acres, and that's the equivalent of 400 people responsibility. So it is going on, but for a person that's in an apartment, that's not very easy. And I've got suggestions on usandtrees.com of different ways you could be involved in group settings so yourself is part of the 1/4 of an acre. Now with this isolation that we have, that's going to have to wait a while, but certainly something to think of, something to message about, something to discuss. Now for the rest of this talk, I'm not going to go into the science of this or into facts and figures. I would like to spend a few minutes on the actual passion of being involved with trees, being involved with your own little woodland, your own tree sanctuary. I regard this as a tree sanctuary, doing the Sunday session out in the middle of this live willow cairn, which has a live willow tunnel coming up to it. And to me, it's something I seem to naturally do because it's a passion I've had since childhood. And to me, this is as important and as part of my day as preparing a meal and as getting a glass of water. So this is the thing. How can this be part of our nutrition? How can this be part of our hunger? Or that's the equivalent of needing to have a meal and needing to have a glass of water, a drink of water, because this is about our air. It's not just about carbon absorption. It's actually the amount of air produced. And one of the things I was very surprised at treechange.ie is this, how some species of trees are more useful than I thought they were. I always thought it was the oak and ash that were the big carbon absorbers, and also when they're in leaf for giving out a lot of oxygen. But we have a lot of alders and hazel here, and because alders and hazel are growing close together, there's an alder hedge here, and they have a longer leafing span than the oak and ash. They are also incredibly useful, and they can be equal because they can be closer together and the longer leafing span. But I'm talking about the passion. How do you actually have that passion? You've got to go out. You need to have stewardship for a quarter of an acre, and it's just one site saying a quarter of an acre. I just regard this as a target. A lot of people say, where's more facts, where's more proof? To me, it's just a target. Let's have a target and aim for it. Even if it's eighth of an acre, if a quarter seems too much, it's something. It's a move forward. The thing with passion, and this happened with the bards in the woods, it was a bit like a diet plan. It's something every January people jump onto a diet plan, maybe at the beginning, 1st of January, 2nd of January, and it might last 2 weeks, and that's the end of it until next January. And this can be, and it has been, approached to people with their gardens, with woods, and when they're actually become connected with the rest of nature, get outside, rewilding, gardening, permaculture, whatever they're doing. With several people, unfortunately, it's like that diet plan. It's okay for a few weeks, then leave it alone, go back to our habits. So how can we approach ourselves to extend it so that it's all year round? Because we don't decide, okay, I'm going to have a dinner today, and then after 2 weeks, no, can't be bothered with it, I'm not having dinner anymore, I'm not going to drink any water. We wouldn't survive. But in a way, I look at this not only for carbon absorption, but for how do we grow our own air? And it's quite difficult, I think, for me to actually explain that any further. So I highly recommend you look at usandtrees.com. I will be adding to it, strangely enough, with the isolation going on. I don't know if some of you have found that. You're suddenly becoming far too busy doing other things. It's been a great time for creativity. A lot of people are in their gardens. It's a great time still for planting the trees. What space have you got for putting in the trees? And when you've done it, how can you actually sustain that? You're not only growing your own fruit and vegetables, growing some flowers for your own ambience, but growing your trees for your own air. It's quite scientific to think, oh, I'm going to go carbon neutral. It is important, but if we start thinking, what can I do to be carbon neutral? I think we lose the plot. It's really, how can our passion be part of this? Because there's no other animals out there that's going to go around, I will have shit there, and I think I will do this, that, and the other there, because it's carbon neutral. Animals don't do that, and we don't need to do that. But it's knowing how our passion, how our instinct is there.
Right, I think, yeah, that's it. That's my sort of explanation on that. I suppose I'll go through some of those points again that I was saying there. Based in Ireland, these are island facts, but it may be the same for your country and where you live too. But ideally, Ireland should have 25%, if I can find the picture. There we go. As I was saying, no picture. Yeah, there should be a picture. No, it's refusing. Come on, picture. There we go. 25% biodiverse nature trees, forest cover. And Ireland's landmass used for building is about 5.5 million hectares. So 25. No, I'm saying it's 5.5 million hectares that's not used for building. And 25% of that landmass then would be about 1.375. If I should, so much for getting these stats up. That's what it is. There you go. 5.5 million hectares of land that doesn't have buildings in Ireland. 25% of the tree covers that figure there. And I'm stuck. And oh God. And at Carracrory, considering the number of homes in Ireland, this calculates, as I was saying, to about, I said a quarter of an acre per person. It's actually a quarter of an acre per home. So I said that wrong. But here we have a Carracrory. We've got a quarter of an acre tree labyrinth here. And there you go. There's us. We planted the tree labyrinth, selection of pictures. And it's a home of over 300 trees, because there's alder and hazel and willow, and they're all grown closely together. I was in the willow ken there, and all those willows close together. They weren't in leaf yet.
And it's amazing how much all those other trees have grown in just 2 years since then. But still giving off a substantial amount of oxygen when everything comes into leaf. And these trees, they're well over 10 years now. They're 13 years old. And as I say, I did all this, got these figures from this site. It's treechange.com. No, treechange.ie, but you can try that anywhere. And they're actually based in Sligo, which is the same place as the Western Forestry Co-op that I'm going to be talking about a bit later on. So it's remarkable, as I say, to discover that the tree labyrinth here offsets the CO2 caused through car driving, which is minimal, and also the home energy use. So I'd like to come back to this from time to time, perhaps through the Sunday, and a bit next Sunday, the guests will be going through this sort of thing to help me out with their projects and why they're doing them, so we can achieve similar. But to me, it's amazing what small things we can do to help secure more local native woodland cover. As I say, this is not just Ireland. This is everywhere can be done. So let's have your comments, and then we'll have a poet guest, I think, patiently waiting in the background. There's a lot of people. The K-Chaos, there's been lots of comments here. It's not about carbon neutrality. It's about reconnecting ourselves to nature and accepting our role in it. I hope that's what I put over. It's the passion of it. As I say, if you let the science get in the way, hopefully I pointed that out in the video. If you let the science and you're worried about carbon neutral, nothing's going to happen, because the animals don't go around and do that. They don't try and organize things. They have a connection, and they have a passion that's there. Connection is passion. Beautiful, John. And I'm loving the recording and your talk and about the passion for trees and land that is simply a part of this. So thank you, Anne, on that one. And Elizabeth Flynn's arrived, which is great. Lovely to have you, Elizabeth, and the photos you've been put in. Deforestation, replacing forests with single species trees. Right, I'm going to be talking about that, but the people that we got as guests next week, I'll be talking about. I'm going to tell you about quite an exciting project that in Scotland that, well, I'll wait and tell you later. Lots of great photographs, and it's a great experience, and I love the story, even though it might be a little conceited, but it's lovely how things fell into place. Anyway, you got that to look forward later on. For the folks in the US, there's a good website, Homegrown National Park, all about planting our yards. And there you go. There's a USA resource that looks as if it's absolutely fabulous, necessary, and very useful. Thanks, Anne, for posting that. Thank you so much. Anyway, we've got a guest poem. Now I think we're going to have Cattle. I told Glenda that we're going to have her first, but I think Cattle here, who's now a Nature Folklore regular, and it's got, well, his poetry, it just gets better and better. It's some fine stuff. It's always lovely to have Cattle on board. So let's get the earphones so I can actually hear what he's got to say. So let's see. Let's get at Cattle, and I haven't had a sound test, so. Good morning, Cattle. How you doing? How you doing there?
How are you, my friend?
Yeah, fantastic to see you again. You're in the same pose as when we left you, so you must have been writing poetry ever since the last appearance.
Yeah. I don't move from the chair at all, this one. Don't move from the chair at all.
Great stuff. So what have you got for us today, Cattle?
Well, I thought I'd read a pastoral poem. It references trees and forests, but it's of a form called an eclogue, which is a sort of a dialogue between two. Initially, it was in the ancient times between two shepherds, but I've written this one in the terms of a pilgrim visiting Ireland and the name for Ireland, which is the poetic name for Ireland, Fodla, one of her names. So it's really just describing moving through the Ireland of that time and communicating with the goddess, and she with him, you know.
Oh, sounds perfect.
So, as I say, she was one of the triple goddesses of Ireland. Similar to Albion being used as a poetic name for England, we use Fodla and Bamba for the poetic names for Ireland, typically. Eriu, of course, ended up calling Ireland Éire. That's where the name derived from the other one of the goddesses. But anyway, here we go. It's just an eclogue, and if you really want to dive into those, Virgil's eclogues are quite interesting to read if you really want to dive into them. But that was basically the source or basically the structure of these things. Changed slightly in the modern era. But anyway, here we go. Eclogue. Pilgrim. In boots of the finest deer hide, I have wandered from ocean tide across a land of forests deep, where morning mists rise up from sleep. All sylvan kind to ring of day, to taste and scent as is their way, to mark the rise of brother sun, to live the day down on this land. Fodla. You are welcome, stranger. Danger may sometime hide aside from beauty seen. There are many greening, teeming shades in forest rest safely when you can. Pilgrim. I've seen many lands before where the sun shone just as kindly and the waves creamed upon the shore, but the light falls differently here in emerald shade, I see. Fodla. You tell me nothing new, my kind stranger pilgrim. The threads of sunlight sew in emeralded plaid, a quilt of verdant hue that warms the forest glade. The waters that stream, cream from ledge to valley floor, in icy glints gleam, beam the sparkling light on eye and misty spumes, hang long upon the sunlight air. The kine and sheep herds graze upon the lands, bands of shepherds and husbandmen keep steady watch, thatch and byre keeps cattle close and sheep well fanked in. Fruits of many hue blush on bush and tree and hedge, sedge blows gently near the mere where swallow and crane feign to dip and dive, to plunge and rise upon the air. So too, the frothy foam of milk from sheep and cow slow fills the pewter jug, the brimming brim of lip slips slowly into churn for butter, cheese, and cream. Pilgrim. O goddess, may of these sights I have seen as I sojourned here, the herd upon the hill, the homestead's lights lemoning out upon the purple night, sharp clear, and on the air plaintive sounds of flute is near. I will sit and rest by this forest glade, and take my ease within the cooling shade. The magic of the she is here, and strong. O Fodla, may your children reign here long. Now that's it, my friend. Shalom, back to you, John.
Oh, wow.
Great to
Oh,
see
the imagery of that castle, absolutely amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
for
lovely.
listening.
It's just full of scenes. Look forward to having you again. Thanks for
Thank you, my
popping
friend.
by. Thanks, Cal.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, yeah, great. Castle, the wonderful Castle McTrainer again, and I know Anne would love that. There you go. Lovely to picture, isn't it? It was a lovely set picturing the scenes there. Absolutely stunning. Now I'm going to return. Oh, someone else I think said something. And again here, I think I saw something. Yeah, lovely to picture the scenes. Yeah, that was it. I've got that. Now I'm going to return to the idea of us adding to more woodland cover in Ireland a bit later, and to help you improve air and water management. But I don't think any of this can happen without some kind of education. It's not only the passion, I think the education helps as well. Education about trees, woodlands, but as I say, all of this would be impossible without the passion for it. Now, the woodland forest education I'm about to talk about is absolutely useless if we don't have this passion. I think it's similar to, as I was saying on the video, similar to the passions we have for food, clean water, good air, because we know we can't survive without those. And I'm going to have to do some adjustment because my equipment is falling apart here. Sorry about that. Anyway, aside from the practical survival, trees and woodlands can be fun. We've had a lot of fun with them. Bards in the Woods was one example that we did. We can be playful in the woods, inspired, and it's beautiful. And there's so much that touches our senses, and so much as well that arouses our imaginations, our emotions, and even if so much for continuity. And as I say, great for our imagination, emotions, and even cause us to fall in love. There you go. That's the one I'm going to do. And I'm going to actually switch that as a background. Once I think about that, I'm going to have that as my virtual background for a minute. And there we go. You'll see me. I'm going to get rid of that. And there I am. I'm back again. Right. So it's worth remembering before we had stone and brick churches, our churches were the trees. They were our chosen groves, and there's a modern setting of that type of thing going on now. So not everybody goes off to church, they're out in the woods, and these tree groves often are close to natural springs, so there are the sacred wells, the holy wells as we call them, and a lot of them, especially here, they're in the woods like that. But anyway, for a few minutes I'm going to focus on the hands-on education in the woods. And a lot of people, we call this forest school. Forest school education not only teaches and encourages us with what we can do in the woods, and helps us to connect with our nature landscapes and surroundings. And here's a little introduction chat with what we call forest schools now. And one of my sons has been in this for much of his working life. But the earliest known semi-organized version of this type of schooling that I know of was really what was provided by Wordsworth and John Ruskin, and here they are. They took people out into the woods, as well as writing all that wonderful stuff. They took people out in the woods as well to share and get the passion for what they were putting into poetry, so they might be able to do their poetry as well. And then there's a more formal thing, and I did have his picture, but it seems to have disappeared. I don't know if I can quickly get it up. I don't think I can, but there we go. There was the no, it looks as if I'm not going to get that one. Oh dear. Yeah, it was a picture of Baden-Powell. I had a lovely old picture of Baden-Powell, but unfortunately the Baden-Powell has disappeared on me, so I can't show him. But at the start of the 20th century, he got the Scouts and Scouts together, and their activities were largely woods and forest based. They certainly were when I was a young lad. Not so much now. They don't seem to go out in the woods so much these days, the Scouts. Very changed. But at the same time of Baden-Powell, there were these lovely women. There was Susan Isaacs, and there was also Margaret Macmillan. Susan's on the left, Margaret's on the right there. And they took London children out into the forest for education. And it was pretty dynamic what they were doing at the time. But then go forward to 1995. There was Findhorn Foundation in Scotland, and also the Bridgewater College in Somerset, who've gone blank there. They developed forest schools for youngsters and teens. And then there was the Open College Network diploma that taught forest schooling in Wales in 2003. I haven't got a picture of that. But Forest Education Initiative was inspired by what was happening in Scotland. So the Forestry Commission got onto it, and they got together with other put together a kind of organized forest education initiative. We're up to 2011. And then in 2012, the Forest School Association of the UK formed, and that grew enormous very quickly. They became a hub for forest education, and they set up forest schools, teaching teachers to become forest school teachers, and encouraging a better standard for forest education generally. So the Forest School Association is based in Carlisle in Cumbria, so it's pretty much on the border with Scotland. And then the Irish Forest School Association did started up in Sligo in 2016, but I think its home base now is in Galway, and Northern Ireland started their own in 2018. So we're getting, this has started to take off. With 2016, what was that? That's just 6 years ago, and it's exploding. And the Irish Forest School Association, there's a committee of 10 women. I wish I had the pictures of them. And there's one man. They're all from various backgrounds. They all work various backgrounds. But sadly, they went dormant just as COVID came in. And they were still very quiet this year. So I trust they'll get reorganized and get up and running again soon. But forestry education even when kids had to come back together during the COVID, it got integrated into secondary schools in the UK. It's actually started about 5 years ago, and they've been ripping up tarmac on their lawns and been doing their little woodlands, getting out into the woodlands more, and it's actually become part of the curriculum with schools, especially in Scotland. It's equal to maths, science, and literacy, so it's taken very seriously. And adult forestry education was just about coming on board seriously before the COVID. And I think this year that's really going to take off a lot. And it's getting traction again for this year, especially in forestry tourism, which is really going to explode this summer, I think, the opportunities in Ireland anyway. And what I'm talking about with the forest tourism is very different to the forest bathing. And I'm going to talk a bit about that because the two really can come together. Anyway, I'm going to break off now. This Glenda's sort of doing some housework in the background, I think. Going to bring on Glenda for our next guest here and take a break from talking about forestry before getting to the next subject. Get the headphones. There she is. There's Glenda on there. And that's it. I was talking about green prescription. That's what I'm going to be talking about. But I got those up in the wrong end. Anyway, here's Glenda. Let's let you know before bring her on. Writer, director, actress. I met her at Woodford House for Claire was doing a concert there a week ago. She was part of Beaver Row Heritage. She said that's kind of fallen back a bit, but she's been an actress in this One Night in Dublin, which is a film that's been getting some circulation. And she was fortunate to be a guest years ago on Podge and Brodge in their Scare at Bedtime series, and she was Ivor Brownstein in one of the episodes. But there's no photographs of that. But there's Podge and Brodge. It's an Irish thing. Anyway, let's bring on Glenda. Lovely to see you again. It's almost as if I saw you yesterday. Good afternoon to you. How are you doing there?
Hi, John. I'm fine. And greetings to everybody who's watching today, whether they're tree lovers or tree huggers or tree worshippers or tree climbers or tree twin flames. To you watching now in the future.
Goodness. Yeah, we've got all of those, hopefully, or we're covering all of those this week and next week, which is fabulous. And what have you got to share with us today?
Well, today I'm going to read you two poems I wrote about trees. One when I was 17 and one in the last couple of years. And if we have time, I'd like to read a short poem by the Australian poet Judith Wright called The Flame Tree.
Oh, do, please.
Okay. So will I begin?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. This first poem that I wrote when I was 17, I was a high school student in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had no understanding of mythology or exposure to ancient myths or anything. But the tree I learned many years later is Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse mythology, which you can look it up. It's Yggdrasil, I think. And it's the ash tree. And of course, that's a spiritual tree in Celtic mythology as well. So I'll read that poem now. It's quite short. And what it shows is that anybody, anywhere, no matter what their cultural conditions are, can reach into the unconscious and pull out archetypal images and understand them. So the tree. Life is a graceful, magnificent tree, planted in infinity. Each life is a leaf that comes to grief, but the tree grows tall, and its roots grow deep, and new leaves grow while old ones sleep. It's a very positive rendition of the world tree, I think. So the tree I wrote later, I originally called Talking to the Trees, but thinking about it, it's more important to listen. So I've retitled this Listening to the Trees. And I wrote this when they were talking about introducing bus connects in Dublin and in Ireland with new routes for buses that would involve cutting down many old trees, including plane trees, which were very effective at filtering the air. We need them. And of course, the older trees take in more carbon and produce more oxygen than the new ones. Okay, so I'll read this poem called Listening to the Trees. I went to the park one summer morning, stood looking at the tall old trees, and imagined that I was an alien, just landed on Earth from a faraway planet, and these were the Earthlings I was meeting for the very first time. I greeted the natives, who were standing with great dignity in twos and threes. Somehow they understood my thoughts, and I theirs. They told me of their long lives, of the many things they had seen, how they produced oxygen for other earthlings, let some earthlings nest in their branches, provided shade from the planet's sun and shelter from the winds. But there was another species on this planet, humans, who thought they were superior to the trees. In fact, in their ignorance, they imagined themselves to be superior to all other earthlings. These self-centered beings mostly did not understand any tree languages, but chopped them down as if they were objects, turning their skin and flesh into houses or furniture or paper or firewood. And those who were left grieved for the ones that were taken. I admired these sturdy creatures who seemed to be mistreated and perhaps even a little endangered. I told them that on my planet they would be honored for their wisdom, strength, and giving nature. They warned me to be wary of the humans, the most dangerous species on Earth. They might choose to kill or capture me, use me for unnatural experiments. I wondered what these strange beings were like. They are not rooted like us, the trees said. Instead of branches and trunks, they have odd-looking arms and legs and move restlessly around the planet. They rarely thank us. Though they can speak, they can't understand our whispers in the wind. They are like sleepwalkers. If they don't awaken, they'll destroy all of the rest of us and themselves as well. We try to warn them, but they just won't listen. Suddenly, I am brought back to reality. My own humanness seems a shameful thing. I look at the peaceful trees, now silent, and wonder if they really believed for a moment, as I did, that I was an alien who saw them as they saw themselves. Now, the last poem I'm going to read today is by the wonderful Judith Wright. And this is the book that I found this morning. And notice I'm in it.
Great.
Yes. And so this is called The Flame Tree. How to live, I said, as the flame tree lives. To know what the flame tree knows. To be prodigal of my life as that wild tree, and where my passions sow. That lover's nod of water and earth and sun, that easy answer to the question baffling reason, branches out of my heart this sudden season. I know what I would know. How shall I thank you, who teach me how to wait in quietness for the hour to ask or give, to take and in taking bestow, in bestowing live, in the loss of myself to find. This is the flame tree. Look how gloriously that careless blossomer scatters, and more. What the earth takes of her, it will restore. These are the thanks of lovers who share one mind. Thank you.
Oh, gorgeous. What a beautiful set. Thank you so much for that, Glenda. Thank you. That was gorgeous. So, yeah, thank you. We'll have you back again for sure. So it's a delight. Have a great afternoon, and I trust it's sunny over there. Going back, some comments here. Let's go back because we had Cathal and a few people said them. There we go. There was Anne was saying lovely picture of the scenes depicted by Cathal. Claire enjoyed that singing words. It really was. He did sing the words so often, didn't they? And thank you, Cathal, from Terry Slack, Hardwick there. And Cathal gives his thanks back somewhere here. There you go. Thank you there. And then for Glenda, one of her fans, Gina Potaka there. And also Cathal as well. Thank you. Beautiful read. Now, I'm itching to get to tell you the Turoran story, but to focus back on the what we can do, which is in this afternoon's title, I'm going to think of for a few minutes the different ways that we can become woodland curators. So this is sort of practical stuff, and my microphone is vanishing on me. Let's try again. Now, the easiest way, if we've got a garden and at home, we can grow some trees in it, can't we? That's one thing that we can do. There we go. Your own garden. Now, this is what happened at the beginning. The tree labyrinth got put on this. This was sort of marking out the foundations of that. But as I say, 1/5 of an acre is a great start if you got that in your garden. It's quite a large garden, really. But if your garden is smaller, whatever you can spare is great. And as I say, that's what happened after the trees. Believe it or not, there's about 300 trees, all bare rooted and planted. I think that was about this time of year that Claire was doing a bit of work on it there. And then you can include trees in your garden if you've got a small garden, and then go and perhaps share, and you'll give some help and management elsewhere to anything that's going on in your community. And another option is to help someone local with their woodland project as well. And that's what that picture's about, is helping. There's a bunch of people on a woodland project anyway. And this is obviously something that apartment dwellers can do. And also people with small gardens, it's something that's worth considering as well. Thing is, with that, going helping someone else, there is no investment, which is an advantage to us. We just go along, offer our help as volunteers. It's a very loose arrangement. There's no payment arrangement when we do that sort of thing, helping the friends. There's probably no payment arrangement in the owner's budget. They're just happy to have you around, give you a cup of tea, cake, a few sandwiches, whatever. Do great crack all round, really. But I got this about planting your own trees. I'm not sure quite. Oh, there you go. Bare piece of land, 2014. Look at that. 4 years later, get some fast growing stuff in there. Orders your willow and hazel, and it can look a bit like that. But the one thing is, when you're helping someone else, you don't have any role in the decision making. You're just a volunteer on their project. So that might be not the best arrangement for your own tree sanctuary. If you're on good relations with whoever you're helping, can I use your tree sanctuary? Well, that's great. But people are a bit precious about their tree sanctuaries, and that might always work. So let's think of something else you can do. You can always go look at some local unused public, or sometimes it's private land, and look at that. This is where you've got to really try and encourage the community to come together with something like this. Ask around, just ask around with people, where is there unused land? It could be something that looks like that. Isn't that beautiful there? And then when you do find that, try and make some sort of arrangement that's contracted. That really helps secure, and it also gives confidence in people in joining up with a project as well. Sorry, my photographs have kind of everything's gone sticky again. So give me a moment. Anyway, if you can get some sort of contract and you find some unused land, see if you can get some sort of agreement that's rental or rent-to-own, minimum of 10 years. But if you can get 25 years, that's even better. It doesn't mean you commit to those 25 years. Make sure that your contract has an option to sell or pass on the contract, and so it just keeps going. And so people will leave, people will come in, but there's that contract that people can join in with. Try to go for a minimum of 1/5 to 1/4 of an acre per person that's involved, to keep with the statistics I mentioned earlier. But anyway, getting that firm long-term arrangement is the thing to do if you do that as a community project. Another thing you can do is have some land that you can share. Suppose you've got land and you say, okay, I don't need to use this land. Share it out to other people, a bit like the allotment movement, although allotment is often public land shared out, county land. But people do this privately, and there's I noticed in Scotland they do a lot of that, sharing of their land, and it is growing, and it's growing in Ireland. There was an example I saw. There was a television documentary on it. It was out in Kildare, and two of the renters. It was the landowner, as I say, in this Kildare documentary, the landowner decided to rent out strips of land that she wasn't using, and to rent out the strips really for vegetable and fruit growing. So it was the allotment idea. And two of the people that came along and used this were two Irish music stars. There was Shane McGowan. There he is there. And Glenn and oh dear, sorry, excuse me, I got the stickiness going on again. And Glenn Hansard, there he is, Glenn Hansard there. He's actually, I'll talk about Glenn because he came up with something quite funny actually from this. And this was all before Shane broke his hip. And this was just after when the movie One was done, the Glenn Hansard. You might remember him and his partner as a silly season that toured around afterwards. It's just been released. But unfortunately, neither Glenn or Shane actually looked after the vegetable plots. They rented them out. And then Glenn had the silly season. Shane broke his hip. And so their plots didn't go very well through the summer season for those various reasons. But somehow they both turned up for the harvest gathering that happened in autumn, and Shane was in the wheelchair, unfortunately. And Glenn was just there for the cooking, I think. And at the gathering, Glenn Hansard was asked, what's he going to do next year? Is he going to keep it on? 1 2 1 2. I think we got sound back. Okay, I think the sound's back. Have you got the sound? Have we got the sound back? Can someone tell me if we got the sound? Excuse me. You're back. Okay, thanks very much. Where did I get sound off? Right. Are you muted? No. Sorry about that. 254. Can't hear. Lost the sound. Thank you all. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't. Obviously, I meant speaking. I wasn't checking. So I'll go back to the whole Turoran story. I think is probably where I get. So I hope you don't mind me repeating this again. I'm actually not far. Did you get the Glenn Hansard thing? Did you get the story where I was talking about Shane McGowan and Glenn Hansard? Did you catch that one? Do put it in comments. Did you get the one about Glenn Hansard and Shane McGowan's story? It is a fascinating one where, yes, you got that one. Great. Okay, I'll just go back to the Turoran story here because it is fantastic. And as I say, it's about forming a cooperative and working the land together. I did hope to have a representative from the Turoran Community Forest on the Isle of Mull. And right in the swing of this. So sorry, I'm losing my pictures and having to go back. Right, the Turoran Forest. Anyway, this is it. Some sculptures that was in there. Sorry, I don't know where I got cut off. Right, there we go. I think we're all back. All systems back. Sorry, it's just been a day of stuff cutting off. I have no idea why the sound went. I really don't. Anyway, back into the story of it. I hope to get a Turoran representative here. And they were out tree planting. So, because it's a lovely sunny day. They're a community forest. It's on the Isle of Mull in Scotland. And it's not McCartney's Mull of Kintyre. When I say Isle of Mull, everybody says, "Oh, I know that. That's Mull of Kintyre." No, it isn't. Mull of Kintyre is a peninsula. Isle of Mull is an island in Argyll. Anyway, being a sunny day, all the people are out tree planting and doing stuff like this. So I couldn't get any representatives, which is a shame. So I'm going to try and tell the story myself about this community woodland cooperative because it is close to my heart. Because once I lived in Turoran and it's going sticky again, sorry. And it was once a forestry commission headquarters there, surrounded by mixed forestry. That's actually public land. So the forestry commission were based there. That was their headquarters. And this was all public land. It is mixed forestry. And when you look the other way from there, it's onto the sea, Loch Screedon there, beautiful place. But I left Turoran and the Isle of Mull and I went to live in Caithness for study. But at the same time, I got involved with Green Party and started campaigning for cooperative forestry legislation. Because what was happening there was... well, I'm going to skip the politics of this, but tree plantations using Sitka spruce were getting out of hand. It was taking the cross out of the family lines, and it was just going into corporate loggers industry. But we did go by under the table stuff. Well, you know roughly how politics work. I scratch your back if you scratch mine. It was all that stuff. We got that bill through by 1990 about community cooperative forestry bill. Nobody really took to it straight away, but yeah, it was good to be there. And of course, in Ireland, unfortunately, tree plantation farming recently is doing the same thing here. It's taking townlands away from local people. So I hope that some sort of bill like that is going to happen here, because the corporation farming for logging is bad news in many ways. Anyway, it was so stunning, of course, that these people on the Isle of Mull, they picked up on this bill that we got through. Of all places for this to come into action is a place I used to live, forestry where I live, because in 2010, and I hope you still get I hope you still get the microphone. In 2010, the government of the UK tried to sell off the forestry. They tried to do the same thing here in 2012. So they said, okay, we're taking that off of the table. And of course, in a lot of political things, when they take things off of the table, all they do is put it under the table. So there was this under the table sale that was going on of this public land in Truro and around where I used to live. And the people of Southwest Isle of Mull, they figured out what was going on, and they picked up on this legislation. This is 25 years after it was formed, and they used it to actually get the first dibs ahead of the commercial forestry. But they had to have a local vote, and this is the poster they put out for the local vote to show there was interest in forming a local cooperative, and they became a local forestry cooperative. And this means that everybody gets a share of places like this in Truro, and there's lots of woodland streams from the mountain like this, and they all get a share. They become share partners of cooperative that bought the forestry around Truro, where I once lived. So that, as I say, this was an under the table sell-off of a public-owned forestry where a co-op of local public managed to get it back, and they've secured it for life. And what added to that I got excited is one of the leaders of this actually lives in Ardton, which is where we raised our family, and which is another beautiful place. Let's give you a lovely picture of it. We didn't live in that cottage. We lived nearby, and on Nature Folklore, I've told you about Jeannie, a woman who smoked a pipe there, and I used to go to her and pick up local stories because of the berg back there. That's the other side of Loch Screed, and the berg there with the cliffs. It's full of folklore and stories that I do actually share here from time to time. This must have been taken in June, a dry time, because there's usually lots of waterfalls coming down from there, and along the coastline, some quite amazing caves. Anyway, and behind there at Ardton, there's a lot of hedges, a lot of hazel hedges, and the foraging is absolutely amazing for hazels there. As I say, we raised our family there. And it's also down on the shore there is amazing for seafood and seaweed foraging as well. And the latest news I've got is the crofters around that Ardton area, they've now converted much of their land into being hazel orchards. So that really adds to the foraging of hazels that were really abundant in the hedges there. Anyway, so that's a very motivated bunch of people. They've actually got a tree nursery going for their forestry cooperative. That's in a village called Pennygale, which is nearby. So they got that going, and the school children help a lot with that. And at nearby Benesson School, which is where my own children went to, they now get do a lot of forestry education now out into the community forest. And all those pupils, they've just recently received a junior forestry certificate. And due to their forestry school activities, all within the cooperative Truro Forest. So what I love about this is it's all brought it all together. The passion for trees and woodland, and forest education, it's brought that together. The passion, the education, includes the folklore amongst the practical, and a local community-owned woodland cooperative. There's a complete set that's happened over the years, and it's all been saved from an absent landlord commercial logging corporation. And even the school children there, they've set up a nature trail, and they've got this sign up, community forest, absolutely brilliant. And there it is, they're advertising the open day for that. And another thing that goes is it's become good for tourism because more eagles have come in, not only the golden eagles, but the sea eagles, those lovely black and white eagles like they've come in and they've started mating. So it's incredible for wildlife. You know, that's another thing that's been brought in. So I hope that's a wonderful example where motivation brings all this together. It might take a few years, but it brings everything I've been talking about today together of what we can do. Of course, I'm very disappointed we couldn't get someone else to talk about it rather than me, because they were all out on tree planting. And there we go. So as I say, there we go. Brings it all together. Anyway, there's one more opportunity of being a woodland creator. Now I've got excited about cooperatives, and this is one. It's an Irish program, but you may have similar where you live if you do not live in Ireland. And this one is called the Neighbourhood Scheme, Community Neighbourhood, and it has similarities to local community cooperative, but it's always open to the public. Well, the Terroran community forest is open to the public, a lot of it anyway. That's what it's there for. It's a bit of a self-education as well as a park. Sorry, I got more stickiness going on with photographs here. Anyway, and Scotland is great because they've got the right to roam laws anyway, which I think are very handy, which Ireland doesn't have. And that's why their cooperative has got to be open to the public by law anyway. But the community neighborhood schemes, they're not entirely local community. As they're in partnership, they actually go into partnership with forestry companies. Anyway, I did that photo as symbolism, bring it all together. And to me, there you go. Well, there's a curator. That's also taken. That was a curator. The coup of Terror in there. Anyway, this is what you get at the beginning of a neighborhood scheme. You get a sign telling you all about it in the beginning. As I say, they're in partnership with forestry company to manage the woods. But the caretaking forestry managing company, they get the profits from the woods. They get the profits from thinnings. They never clear fell the things, but they will manage the woods, and any wood thinnings, it's theirs. But the community get to play there. It's their community woodland. And some of the profit that the woodland gets is actually cycled back into community activities, because with these neighbor woods, they're still used for community events, community nature education, and sometimes the forestry company will let them in and teach them about the forestry, and they can help out on tree planting and good stuff like that. Now, in short, the local community, they also get a lot of fun. It's a very healthy thing. They get to be outdoors in the woods, which is fabulous. And they get to do observations like this. So it's a very healthy option to have, a beautiful option to have, the community woodlands. Sorry, everything is breaking down on me today. Anyway, we'll get there. We're nearly there. Now, the neighborhoods, they were handled
John, we can't hear. I don't think anyone can hear me. Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, you can hear. I'm sorry. Okay. I can't hear. Hi. John, all of your talking is making me think that I need to be writing about my own tree plantings rather than just going out to other trees. But, well, if you can still hear, this is a piece that's entitled Peace in the Company of Beeches, another piece of woodlands I used to go to. Beneath the canopy of giants, young beeches overtop the winding trail that runs to the river. Comforting tans soften the gray of this raw and rainy winter day. Persistent dry leaves rustling in the wind, fallen ones cushioning the raindrops that patter against the forest floor. Great craggy white oaks soar skyward as golden-crowned kinglets and white-breasted nuthatches pry under loose bark, seeking hidden grubs and overwintering insects. And mosses skirt the yellow poplar's flanged bases, creeping like fuzzy green stockings along the massive trees' long and winding toes. Overhead, red-headed woodpeckers work the dead trees, and yellow-bellied sapsuckers the live ones. Below, white throats forage in the duff layer beneath the shrubs, darting to and fro like so many winged mice, too intent on their quest to notice me. Food for all, near at hand, free for the finding. Oh, to be a member of this quiet, enfolding community, surrounded by unpretentious beauty in all seasons, roots entwined, branches interlaced, mysterious, silent communication beneath the earth, one species to another. Like the imaginary dwellings of my childhood, secret spaces between sweeping branches, hidden from the rest of the world, the sanctuary to which I return. Peace in the company of beeches. I still can't hear.
Back. 1 2 1 2. Am I back in the sound?
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
not the right microphone. I've had to change microphones. It's sorry about this. I've just been one hand has been trying to fix problems through this entire show. So sorry about that. That's what's been going on here. In fact, I've got my actual computer disappearing again on me. Oh, it's just I don't think I've had these as many issues in a broadcast yet. Right, am I back on audio again? Let's see, audio 1 2 1 2. I got some sort of audio. This is a crappy mic I've put back on, so hopefully this will we'll get through to the end with this as well. Right, I'll carry on as best as I can. Thanks very much, Anne. I'm sorry that got messed up this week. I'll be playing around obviously in the week to find out what on earth is going on. I've got various mics, but this is my favorite one. So that was in the company of beaches, and let's see what people are saying. It must be, oh dear, back, amazing. Show, John, thanks. Yes, we can hear you. I'm so sorry, I'm very distracted by, I've got, so far through this, I've had the microphone, the camera, 2 of the computers have been playing up. It's been quite a thing. So sorry if I've not been that present with you as I should have been. And thank you. Heard poems today. My favorite is Glenn's and playing Imagine Things, this poem that's touched my heart. And touched the heart here. I'm trying to get there. Your words touch my heart. Sorry, I'm all over the place because I'm still. I need to be an octopus to check everything up to make sure it's all going, coming in. And yeah, and you were great. Everything you said, we can hear. Slapstick comedy. Well, that's one way of deciding it, of what it's called. Wow, looks like an owl. Yeah, there was an owl on the picture as well. So I better, in a way, right, one computer's playing up. Shall I make an attempt? I'm going to attempt on the last bit because I wanted to talk about green prescription. And I'll talk a lot more about this amongst guests next week as well, as far as the green prescription goes. We're talking about the healthy benefits that we have within the woodlands as well. Yeah, that's it. There we go. Oh, there's a new feature. That's good. I won't talk about what it was, but it helped get me out of a situation. This is green prescription. It's to skim over what I mean by this. It's familiar stuff, but I think it's good to be reminded of this. Here's a bit of a listing. Breathe good air, physical improvement, mental health improvement. But what's this forest bathing stuff that people are talking about? One way I feel the pinings, you would talk about the forest bathing and the pinings, is similar to with any of the evergreens. The evergreen benefits, they are enhanced by the broadleaf trees, but I think we're going to go into this more next week. I'm certainly not going to go into the science of it, but physical health improvement from walking, running not needed. Though a lot of people seem to want to get into the woods and get out of them as soon as possible as they run through them, don't they? But mental health improvement, definitely, because when we trust the woods become our friend, the trees become our companions. So we are forest people that have found our forest again once we're in the woods. And through discovering this trust again when we're in amongst the trees, we do become the forest people again. I'm certain of it. Then when there's this modern practice of Shimrin Yuko, forest bathing, there's a forest bathing man there. Probably most of you have grasped a version of this that's about someone else doing a bit of forest bathing there. They're doing it individually, but a lot of people, they do this in groups. But what's actually practiced as forest bathing in the USA and Europe is very different to what's practiced in Japan. And we might talk about that more next week. But it is really about mindfulness. It's a great therapy. They lose that. Especially in California, where a lot of this mindfulness approach to forest bathing sort of got invented, I suppose. And it's certainly an exercise about being present. It's surrendering our egos and fears and even our guilt. And our shame, and we trust our senses, we trust our instincts and our intuition. Being in the woods is it's sensory, it's open, it's a mindful experience, and it's great to culture our senses and imagination, because that's what brings about the connection to our surroundings, much more than the education. The education is helpful maybe with the identification, and also it's more a mentoring for our trust. I think that's what it is. So the forest school is more about a mentoring of trust, and also to not have fear of risk as well, because we need risk as education in our lives. So here's another thing. Perhaps the greatest benefit is being in tune with what's around us. So like I was saying, take risks. Right, I've got one more guest, and this is by video. This time, not someone that's in the studio. I'll move forward with this. But next week, as I say, we're going to have people involved in woodland projects, and I couldn't have them as guests today, but they're in lovely projects. We've got Gaelic Wood, we got the Gaelic Woodland Trust is next week. We've got, oh, I forget. Well, look for this, and I'm just sort of my mind's just scrambled from all that's been going on. So excuse me. But this is from Mail Breach, and that's from her book, Bright of Ireland Devotional, Sun Among the Stars. And I'm going to get her video now while I try and do some repairs here. So here is Mail with her poem. Maybe.
Kildara, cell of the oak. Oak of firm memory, wise oak, ancient oak. In your sacred grove, druids act, tribes gather. In oak's presence, new kings receive their rule. Through you, the sky above joins the world concealed below. Light and sap, sun and spring flow in endless rhythm. In your crown a falcon rests, loyal friend of Bridget. Nearby 3 black-cloaked, gray-cowled crows. Caterpillars taste your new-sprung leaves, blue tit feeds her young, your fuzzy foe. On your trunk, figure of a mighty warrior, like a mouse, tree creeper climbs. Beware it, little beetle in your bark. Among your roots the capercaillie, feathered horses of the woods. Your acorn mast, great pigs covet, your shade the hermit loves. Surrounded by your kin, most wise of forest trees, fair Bridget dwells. To you she draws her ever-growing host.
Oh, thank you, Mel. That's a book there. Anywhere in any bookshop you can get that. It's Publishers Moon Books. It's a part of the John Hunt Publishing, which is based in Hampshire, UK. So, yeah, sorry, apologies that everything has gone funny. I notice even the signal now, the bar is going down. So I think I better tell you what's coming up with a much better equipment setup. And thank you for supporting this show and coming in and doing what you can. I'm blown away with the blessings to hear such beautiful poems, says Andrew Goodwinkin. So coming up, as I say, next week is part 2, and it better be a bit more together, I hope, of us and trees, what can we do? And as well as guests, I hope to return to more about reviving our passions in trees and woodlands, and maybe a bit more folklore, tobacco. So on 20th of March, we do have the return of part 2, and the picture for that part 2 as well, and to the comments are just lingering. And so we're going into the heart of Tree Sanctuary as well on the 20th. And reminders of why we need this and how to have one. and amazing visions that we can have from having a tree sanctuary. Then on the 27th, that's going to be the finale of this, and that's going to be trees and water. But even right at the end, I'm going to start playing up here. And so we've got trees and water, and that brings the series from its practical suggestions back into all the wonderful folklore of the two, and just bringing the whole series together. So thank you all again for keep putting up with this very erratic session today. Thank you to Catherine Katrina, Glenda Camino, and Broding, and then at the end, Mail Breach as well. So if you're watching this, if you dare to watch this after the broadcast, please keep commenting the bits that you can watch and see, and I'll return to answers as well. Subscribe below. I'm sure I'll be better set up next time. Enjoy a safe week full of enchantments. And let's see. Gina says this was wonderful with all its elements. The poetry. I've never had so many malfunctions. So thanks very much. For those of you that are still here, I know there's not many of you. A lot of you have disappeared as things break down. So for those of you who are still with me, enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspirations and enchantments. I'd better get off the air and do some repairs and make it much better for you next week. So thank you very much. Have a lovely week. Enjoy the week. I will see you, more of you, next Sunday. Bye-bye. That's all I got.